Hey everybody. So in this episode, I brought along a very, very special guest. I'm sure you're familiar with him if you watch my channel. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on the channel many, many times. Mr. George, Disney Family Man 23. I'm going to discuss the Disney Plus 1 year in review with him. Mr. Family Man, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. And I apologize to all your viewers that may not recognize me, but I'm having a little bit of a beard in disguise moment. So
No problem, no problem. So tell everybody at home where they can find you.
absolutely. Well, as Orange Grove announced, my name is George. I'm also known as Disney Family Man 23 on YouTube. You could also find me on Facebook, George Falcione, and on Twitter at Disney George. And you could also check me out with some of my other friends on the Grand Circle Tour podcast that you could listen to on YouTube and on YouTube. I think for a second.
Perfect. So yeah, check him out, give him a subscribe. He does a lot of great content. So George, Disney Plus just had their 1 year anniversary. Okay, just a few days ago. So I wanted to bring you on. I wanted to discuss with you basically like a year in review, and what we can look forward to going forward as well. And the first thing I wanted to ask you, and I want to talk to you about this, is what was your favorite Disney Plus original content? So what did Disney Plus offer you this year that was original, exclusive to Disney Plus, that just knocked out of the park for you? It was your favorite?
I'm probably going to sound pretty much like everybody that has ever watched anything on Disney Plus. And it may seem like I'm taking the simple road, but I have to go with The Mandalorian.
Cool.
And for the purpose of, because there was a lot of backlash between the newer trilogy with episodes 7, 8, and 9. And, no matter which way you go, it's not even just the Star Wars franchise now connected with Disney, but you still have those original diehard Star Wars fans that, almost had a nervous breakdown that when George Lucas sold the rights to Disney, they were like up in arms thinking, like, what are you doing? So, even with the trilogy with The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, that no matter how you look at it, someone always had something to say about it negatively. And I think the biggest criticism is it just constantly felt like it was repeating itself. But then when Rian Johnson kind of took a different direction with The Last Jedi, people were saying, oh no, how could you? It completely went off the complete target. So it's like no matter which way you go. So getting to my point, with The Mandalorian, I love how it strays away from the typical origin story of the Jedi. It was always the Jedi story. It was always the Jedi way, where now it's focused on another entity in the Star Wars universe. And I love how it just goes in many different directions. It's not just a solid based line of saying, okay, well, we know what's going to happen in this episode and we know what's going to happen this week. It is completely random. You don't know who is going to end up on the show, even if it's in a brief moment or a cameo. It catches me by surprise every week, and it astounds me of what Jon Favreau did with this now global phenomenon, that he's a triple threat to me with Disney, with Star Wars, and Marvel. Give him something to do with Pixar and he's completely unstoppable.
Yeah. The Mandalorian's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And spoiler alert if you haven't seen the latest episode, I will be discussing a little bit of a spoiler here, but I'm really, really happy that the Mandalorian is starting to give us some of the characters from like the animated shows and what have you, because I always felt the animated series, the animated shows for Star Wars were always fantastic. The Clone Wars, Rebels, they're awesome, but they created some of these really amazing characters, right? But they were never to be seen or heard from in like the live action movies or anything else live action. I'm glad that that's changing. It adds like some connective tissue to all of it. The animated shows for a long time have really been like they're like a little island of their own thing, and now they're starting to come and mix with the live action. And I absolutely love that. I think it's a brilliant decision. It's smart. I'm glad they're doing that. I hope we see more of that,
I agree. I really do, because it almost felt like at a time where it was set in the same universe in a galaxy far, far away, if you will, but they felt like completely different separations between like where you have the characters from the movies, like Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Dooku and Sidious, and then they were intertwined in with this storyline with like the Clone Wars and Rebels, but then the other characters that were intermingling with them, they're nowhere to be found in the films. So it's
right.
like, where do you separate the timeline? So now the Mandalorian kind of broke those boundaries and said, okay, this is the timeline where it all happened.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I hope they continue to do that and add that connective tissue. I think it's important, I'm going to actually, okay, so I actually got Disney Plus primarily for the Star Wars and Marvel content. And the Star Wars stuff, we haven't really had any Marvel stuff yet, but the Star Wars, like we said, The Mandalorian has been phenomenal. But I would say that my favorite original Disney Plus content would actually have to be, I think, the Imagineering story. I've always been a sucker for these behind the scenes kind of things. Like in the 90s, Michael Eisner did this all the time. Like, with every animated film that came out, you can buy like the box set, which would have like the making of, right?
I have those.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great, and I love that. And I feel like Disney kind of stopped doing that for a long time, and now with Disney Plus, we're starting to see a resurgence of that. And the Imagineering story is sort of like, it kind of harkens back to those days where they give you a glimpse of the past, the behind the scenes. I love that. So Imagineering story is probably right now my favorite original offering on Disney Plus. I just absolutely fell in love with that series. Learned a lot, it gave us a lot of background on things that we, of circumstances within the company. I really fell in love with that Imagineering show.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. That was honestly one of my top 5 original content. I actually, even before The Mandalorian, because no one knew what the expectations were for the show.
Right.
It could have been really, really good or really, really bad. But I thought either way, I still have the Imagineering story. Anything with the Imagineers, I knew that I would automatically go for. Because as you said, I have a lot of those behind the scenes DVD box sets. I used to watch the Travel Channel a lot, where they would have the Disney specials of like where they go behind the scenes of Animal Kingdom and Epcot and what have you. There is even a documentary of the Walt Disney World Resort of Modern Marvels. I don't know if you ever checked that out. It was on the History Channel.
Nice.
It's with Modern Marvels. And so, yeah, that's like right up my alley. And not to kind of, add more salt into the wound, but I think with the Imagineering story of how it basically tells the origins of the company and the struggles that they went forward with, as time went on, like with the Tokyo Disneyland, all the international, the big, huge ups and downs of Disneyland Paris and what have you, that I think we may have to need an episode 7 because of what's going on in today's time.
Yeah, definitely.
Get like a real in-depth look of what's going on behind the curtain while everyone was dealing with the pandemic, because all we were getting from the Walt Disney Company was hearsay. It was different people in different groups saying, okay, they're doing this, they're doing that, until Disney officially gave the word.
Right.
But I think it would be very interesting to see what really went on during the time of like the lockdowns and the shutdowns, and like what the Imagineers were doing, how everything got put on hold, how everything got put back into place with the construction and everything. I think we need an episode 7.
No, George, 100%. I mean, that's brilliant, actually. I mean, I would be all on board with that. And I really would love to see it, be completely honest. I would love to see the drama, because, there has been drama between Chapek Iger and the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. I would love to hear a little bit of insight on that whole situation, because I know there's a whole lot more to that than they're telling us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then actually with all the dramas and issues of Disneyland, that could just be a complete season 2.
Oh, I know. That could be season 2, just only that,
Yeah.
So yeah, I really, 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 really love the Imagineering story. I think right now it's still my favorite, but there's a lot of great stuff. Like Mandalorian, I fell in love with that. Now the next topic I wanted to discuss, keeping it on, the Disney Plus subject, is, there was a lot of hype leading up to Disney Plus, and a lot of expectations, right? Was the platform, was Disney Plus what you expected it to be? Was it not what you expected it to be? What were your thoughts after experiencing it compared to what you thought it was going to be? Or what was it the same? What are your feelings?
Well, I was very curious of just the first thing that came into my mind when I heard of Disney Plus was just all the classic content. Like that was it. Like it was like the traditional Disney movies and everything. That was the only thing that was in my mind when it was first announced about Disney Plus. I didn't really think too much of it. So I thought, okay, it's just going to be like a digital library of all my Disney DVDs that I already have.
Yeah.
But then I went out to the D23 Expo in 2019, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to sign up for it. I'll pay for it ahead of time, get 3. It's like buy 2 years, get the 3rd year free. And then I attended the Disney Plus panel, and when they started showing different things that was going to be put on this streaming service and it was going to be part of the platform, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a lot bigger than what I anticipated.
Right.
Because we were getting Hugh McGregor coming out saying that he's going to return as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think the whole entire arena went crazy when he came out.
Oh, dude, I watched it on YouTube and I went crazy.
And then we were getting like the content of with Loki and WandaVision, and then The Mandalorian, where Jon Favreau came out and was talking about that. And I'm just thinking, okay, this is going to be much bigger than what it's just the traditional Disney classic movies.
Right.
Do I feel that they still have a long ways to go? Absolutely. But that's what we want as Disney fans.
Right.
We don't want to get everything and say, okay, here it is, enjoy, and then be done with it. We want it to continue. We want it to expand. We want it to grow. And I love how even things that weren't even being announced just, got thrown onto the streaming service, based off of, things that are going on in the world, like the beautiful tribute to Chad Boseman, who was the Black Panther.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's great that Disney can just add stuff in with a click of a finger.
Yeah.
And and now even with the holidays coming up, I'm looking forward to that they're going to have the holiday Disney sing along with all like the Disney stars and everything. So I'm curious about that as well.
Yeah. And Disney Plus, it actually it surprised me a lot, actually. And going into the streaming service, the reason I really got it was my primary motivation for getting Disney Plus was the Star Wars stuff, the new Star Wars stuff, and the new Marvel stuff. Now, we haven't had any new Marvel stuff yet. We had a little bit of new Star Wars. Well, actually quite a bit with Mandalorian and Clone Wars. But that was my motivation going into Disney Plus. I want the Star Wars and the new Marvel stuff, which I love the Star Wars stuff they released. I told you, I love The Mandalorian. I mean, it's been great. But this past year, I've noticed myself focusing more on the classics. Like I've actually spent majority of my viewing time on Disney Plus reconnecting with the old school stuff, like Swiss Family Robinson, Davy Crockett, The Ugly Dachshund. I discovered a movie I didn't even know existed with those Callaways. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a 1960s era movie. Didn't even know it existed at all. I first time watched it was on Disney Plus. I absolutely fell in love with it. My viewing habits on Disney Plus have been very different than what I thought they would be. I really have been focusing way more on the old content.
And I think with that is because when anybody goes into a store and they go into like the movie department, if you happen to see an old-fashioned type of movie, you're not going to stop and say, oh, this looks interesting. What's this about? You know, you're always going to go to the newer content that's out. But with Disney Plus, they're offering it to us and it's there. So as we're searching and we're scrolling through the list, it's like, oh, there's that. That's interesting. Why don't we check that out? Because just like you with those Callaways, a movie that I've heard about but I've never even paid any attention to was Blackbeard's Ghost.
Oh, that was another great one. I watched that one too for the first time.
I watched that for the first time when back in March when we had the initial shutdown, because we just went on a huge movie binge, and Disney Plus couldn't have came out at a better time, because I mean it came out in November 12th and then the start of the new year. I think anyone who had Disney Plus was watching it during those times of the shutdown and everything. But yeah, so we got to watch Blackbeard's Ghost. Never knew nothing about it, you know, but it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
And as a fact, I don't know if you know, the actor who plays Blackbeard was the voice of Prince John in the animated film Robin Hood.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. And the star of that show, Dean Jones, is a total Disney legend. He's in a countless amount of Disney movies, and I absolutely love Dean Jones. He's great.
He's really good. Which I find it very interesting because not knowing at first that he was a Disney legend and he was part of the Disney history and the Disney culture, but I actually saw him as the villain as Dr. Varnick in Beethoven.
Oh, okay. Cool. I never saw Beethoven, but interesting.
So yeah, to see him like, and then watching him be in all these Disney movies, it's like, okay, wow, I watched it backwards, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one big surprise for me with Disney Plus. This was a big one. This is probably the biggest surprise that I came across with the whole platform. Was High School Musical, the series. I'm too old to really for those movies when they first came out to be my thing. They didn't resonate with me. It wasn't my generation. The music was cool. I liked the music. They were catchy, but for the most part, the movies, I didn't care about them at all, you know? And I went into Disney Plus not really caring about High School Musical, the series either, because obviously I didn't care about the movies. Why would I care about the series, right? But you know what? I had the platform and I was curious. So I went ahead and watched it, and I absolutely fell in love with this show way more than I thought I would. It actually, this past year, it turned out to be one of my favorite offerings on the platform. It's really, really great. And again, this is someone, I don't really care about the movies, you know, and I fell in love with the show. And a lot of it has to do with the cast. The cast, the kids they chose in this show were all phenomenal. Olivia Rodrigo is the main star. She is great in this. Absolutely great in this. She was also in the Disney Channel show Bizaardvark, but she really shines in the High School Musical show. And you know, it's funny because you watch these interviews with the cast, you know, and they're very much friends in real life. They're all very, very close. And I think that really shows on screen. When you watch the show, you can tell the relationships, the friendships, they feel so genuine because they are genuine. They really are friends in real life. I absolutely loved High School Musical, the series. And if you haven't seen it yet, give it a shot. A lot of people, I feel, didn't watch it because they thought like it's going to be a corny show. It's going to be like, cringy. It's High School Musical. Who cares? Do yourself a favor and check it out. It's a really fun, cute, just
Feel good show.
It was a feel good show. It was a very, very, and it was very, actually, it was pretty emotional. Did you happen to watch?
No, I actually have not yet. That's like the one thing I did not check out, but that's the beauty part with Disney Plus is like, there's so much that you could tell yourself, okay, yeah, I think I'm going to sit down and actually watch this. And then you end up finding something else. And it's like, okay, what did I originally come on here for?
Right. No, you should definitely check it out. And like, just start it, and you might think, oh, this is kind of cheesy or whatever, but as it goes on, you're like, wow, you can become more and more invested in this group of kids, and just the story I thought was very well done. So I don't know, give it a shot though. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. I was. I was. Now, I wanted to go into another subject in regards to its premiere access, right?
Right.
And Mulan, because these subjects are kind of, very much connected. So Disney, for those of you that are not aware, they offer this premiere access, which is basically like an upcharge. So you can pay, what was it, like $29 or something like that, to see Mulan on Disney Plus early. So you didn't have to wait until it was free, like months down the line. You can just check it out now. Okay. And I want to get your thoughts, George, on Premier Access in general, and I want to get your thoughts on, this whole notion that that Mulan didn't really perform that well on Premier Access. What are your feelings on this whole situation?
For me, and I knew this was going to be a controversial topic for all Disney fans alike when they first announced that they were going to do the Premier Access with Mulan, because a lot of people were saying, on one side, well, look how much that you pay for to go to a theater plus snacks, and,
right.
But then on the other side, people are saying, why would you pay that much right now? But they're already giving you a date of when it's going to be free.
Right.
If you just wait a couple months, you can get it free. Why put out the extra $30? As far as with Disney, I think what happened was that when Trolls World Tour came out and they decided to make it Premier Access. This is not on Disney Plus, though, by the way.
Right.
This was on, I believe it was in Netflix. I think it was Netflix. That for Trolls World Tour, it broke beyond expectations because they had their Premier Access. But there was some issues along with it, but the issues got resolved, and it became where almost it made just as much money as if it came out in theaters.
Wow.
So Disney probably thought to say, well, why don't we take this opportunity? Everyone's anticipating Mulan, and let's give it a test run. But I think the issue with it was, I think they kind of risked doing the Premier Access with a film that could have gone either way with audiences.
Right.
I think if they were to test the grounds, I would have tested it with, this is just my opinion, I would have done it with Black Widow.
Right.
Because you're already taking a film with characters that audiences are already familiar with. They already know kind of the storyline of where it goes. They can relate to the character, and people were going to go see it in theaters. So rather than stretch Black Widow out to 2021, because I know that they were anticipating on releasing that in theaters for that purpose. But if they were going to do that anyway, I would have released that on Disney Plus with the Premier Access. So now that they're going to be releasing Pixar Soul on Christmas Day, but it doesn't have the Premier Access, that basically tells me that because they took that risk with the live action Mulan, that it ended up not really gaining extra attention by them paying the extra $30. So I think it's just more so now that Disney is trying to buy some time, if you will. It's like they're really trying to hold on to those big blockbuster films for the theater. And I think that's why they took the risk with Mulan. It may have been a huge success in theaters, and maybe that's why they thought it would be great for the premiere access, but then they thought, okay, it didn't. So rather than put all these movies out at once and possibly lose money, let's hold on to the heavy-hitting movies and wait to see what this world is going to come to as far as opening up things in time, because different places of different parts of the world, they're all on different, some parts of the world are open, other parts aren't. Look what's even going on right now with the parks. Look at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. One is open, one is not. So, when it comes to the theater, I know exactly how you feel about the theater, but it's almost starting to seem like that's going to eventually become a dying art form, if you will. I think everything now is just going to be streamed, and I think Disney's trying to wait and see which direction that's going to go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Mulan was probably not the best choice to roll out that premiere access, and I think that a lot of people, they tried to, the premiere access thing, I think could work. I completely agree with you, George, that if they would have released Black Widow, it would have been a huge hit. You would have seen numbers like you couldn't believe. The mistake that Disney made was they took a movie that was already drenched in, controversy because the lead actress and her political views and things like that, going into it, it was already drama, and this movie Mulan might not have even really have done that well in theaters, given all the bad press it was getting even prior to, leading up to its release. Right. So it's like, that was a really kind of a bad move on Disney's part to put it in on Disney Plus, because on Premiere Access, because it kind of tainted the whole thing of Premiere Access then, because you kind of, your first movie out the gate didn't really perform, I know Chapek yesterday or the day before said that at the investor meeting that the numbers pleased them, but they didn't release any of the actual numbers. So I think if Mulan actually did well on Premiere Access, I think we would have heard some actual numbers. They're hiding the numbers probably because they're not that great,
Yeah. Definitely.
So I think that Premiere Access has potential. It really does. I think people are willing to do that. I just don't think Mulan was the movie they wanted to do it with. If you would have put a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie or something big on there, people are going to do it. I know I would do it. I would spend the $29.99 and do it. It's cheaper than the theater and it's in the comfort of your own home. I'd absolutely do it. I just think people weren't interested in Mulan.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. It's almost like the notion of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because as you said, it probably tainted the Premiere Access, but I think Disney's going to keep it in their back pocket, for the future. But also at the same time, as you mentioned, with all the controversy behind this film, that Disney probably thought, let's try to just make something off of it rather than just kind of throw it out there for free.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were basically trying to just kind of get anything they can. Yeah. They knew that this COVID thing, the lockdowns weren't going to end anytime soon. I still don't think a lot of theaters are even open still. I'm pretty sure in California they're not. So, there's no end in sight with that. They probably thought, okay, we'll cut bait, take the loss, make whatever we can and call it a day. And that's what they did,
It does make me wonder, though, that if they're even with some of the Disney Plus original content, it makes me wonder, if down the road that there are rumors speculating that there's going to be a Mandalorian movie. And obviously that's going to be a Disney Plus exclusive.
Right.
But I wonder if that won't be included with the monthly premium cost. I wonder if they'll actually say, hey, if you want to see this movie, buy it for $29.95 or buy it for $19.99 or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, and people will. You know, I really do believe, and I could be wrong, but I really do believe that the failure of Mulan on Premier Access was a Mulan problem and not a Premier Access problem. I think people are willing to spend the money if you give them the right content. And I just think Mulan was not it.
Yeah.
It was not it, you know?
Yeah. I agree with you. If it would have been Black Widow, then Disney would have no worries with the Premier Access.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I wanted to move on a little bit from this and talk to you about anything on Disney Plus that's disappointed you. Like, you know, again, like we talked a lot about how the expectation of Disney Plus and the reality of Disney Plus, how sometimes that's very different. At 1 year into Disney Plus, was there anything on the platform that disappointed you in any way?
Well, this is just me, and I could just be because I'm somewhat of an impatient person when it comes to, because I love all Disney content and I just want more of it. What I'm disappointed with being a year in is not what's actually on the streaming service. It's not what's on there yet.
Right.
Or if it's ever going to be. I think you and I had this discussion briefly before, but for everyone who has not grown up in the 80s and the 90s, for the original Disney Channel, if you've never heard of the show, like Welcome to Pooh Corner, Dumbo Circus, Under the Umbrella Tree,
Adventures in Wonderland.
Yeah. That, for me, I thought within a year's time, and there still may be time, you know, but It's like those are the lost shows that no one ever thinks about or talks about anymore. And I think what a great way to revive them is to have a permanent home on Disney Plus. And I think it's more so not the fact that they're not on there yet, it's the fact of will they ever be?
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, these shows have really fallen, like, you know, it's funny, like some old shows live on forever, like the Disney afternoon lineup, stuff like that. It's readily available on Disney Plus. Everyone talks about them still. It's still very relevant. But then there's shows like you talked about on Disney Channel, like Adventures in Wonderland, Under the Umbrella Tree, Dumbo Circus, Pooh Corner. I mean, you never even hear of them. Mousercise. You never even hear about these shows. And those are really, really good. Growing up in the 80s and even a little bit in the 90s, even I think some of these shows dipped into the 90s. Those were really, really amazing shows. And I would love to see, I don't know what the hesitation would even be to just throw it on the platform. Why not, you know?
And that's something that I really wouldn't wait, because no one's going to anticipate and say, okay, we got 10 days left for Dumbo Circus. You know, it's like, just put it on there and, you know, just let everyone who has not seen it, let them get to see some original Disney Channel content, and for us to relive our childhood memories. But it's another funny thing too. I don't know if you have seen it. It's the Mouseketeers at Walt Disney World. It's actually on Disney Plus.
I haven't seen it yet. No.
Okay. Well, I don't really want to call it a spoiler, but it's like, this is going to sound weird. It's going to sound weird of me. When you watch it, you will actually see real commercials in between the special that aired when it was on TV. And back in the 70s, you know, you could see these older type commercials. And I'm like watching it and I thought, wow, that's amazing of what these commercials really were. Because this may sound weird, but I do go on YouTube at times and I like to go back and reminisce and watch 80s and 90s commercials.
Oh, I do that too.
Yeah. Weird, but I think it would be cool that if they were to release the original Disney Channel content, like of Dumbo Circus and Adventures in Wonderland, to keep the commercials in between the show itself. Right. So that way we can actually go back and say, oh my gosh, I remember these commercials. I remember how it used to be. And it actually gives you the full immersive experience of what it was watching these shows on Saturday mornings or before and after school. And I think that would just like add the extra oomph to it even greater. I know that sounds weird, but
no, I completely agree. That would be great. And to do that with all the old school shows, Disney Afternoon, all that stuff, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I would love that. I'm like you. I've done that many times. I've gone on YouTube. I've watched 80s commercials. I grew up in the 80s. I remember all the He-Man stuff, Transformers, Thundercats. It was a great time. And I would love to see that, if they were to do that on Disney Plus, just keep the commercials in. That'd be so cool.
And then another thing that I was very, very disappointed with was they actually had a date for it. I wanted to see Walt Disney at the New York World's Fair.
Yep.
And for the life of me, I still don't know what happened.
It was supposed to come out in May, right? Like the end of May?
Yeah.
And it never did.
Yeah.
I know. I don't get that either. I really don't understand. They announced it and then it never happened.
And I was really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I could not wait for that.
Yeah. I share your sentiment on both of those issues. And then I also, I thought when Disney Plus premiered, I thought we were going to get at least a taste of everything. And what I mean by that is I thought we were going to get like Mandalorian and maybe like one of the Marvel shows, like, Falcon and Winter Soldier or WandaVision or one of the Marvel shows, But when it premiered and then there was like nothing for Marvel and there's still nothing for Marvel, that was kind of a disappointment for me. I wish that Disney Plus would have premiered with a new Marvel show. Or at least soon thereafter. Like maybe when Mandalorian ended in January, they could have started Falcon and Winter Soldier or something. But
what they could have done too was kind of rotate it with the weeks, like have Mandalorian on every Friday and maybe a Marvel show every Monday. So you have one at the beginning of the week and you have one at the end of the week.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure why. Maybe there was issues with the filming. Maybe things were delayed. But I think that I think it would have really benefited the platform to have some Marvel stuff on there close to the premiere of the platform. So that was a little bit of a disappointment for me. I would have enjoyed that. I thought that would have been pretty cool.
And then also for me as well, this isn't really a disappointment. It's more so of an idea that a lot of times when people go and buy DVDs or Blu-rays is to also have that bonus material.
Right.
And I do know that with some of the Disney films, primarily like the animated films like Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, you can get some of the bonus content if you go to extras when you're under the movie. But I would like to see a lot more added to those films as far as the bonus material, like a lot of like the behind the scenes and like the music videos and stuff added to the films.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. And I would love to see, why don't they throw Captain EO on Disney Plus? Why not? I mean, that's like a long, basically like like 10 minutes or something, 15 minutes?
It's about like a 10, 15 minute. Yeah.
Yeah, like a 10, 15 minute music video. I mean.
Or what would even be even greater, as you said with Captain EO, even add all the extinct other things like Cranium Command and the making of me and like all that extra like little things that were in the parks that you can now watch from the comfort of your own home. That's not there anymore.
Right. Honey, I Shrunk the Audience,
Yes, exactly.
That'd be great. Yeah. Overall, I mean, I'm happy with the service. Obviously there's room for improvement, but that's fine. There's no rush.
Oh, and one more thing that I'm actually a little bit disappointed with is the content for the Muppets.
Okay. I haven't actually seen any of that. How is it? You didn't like it?
I mean, they do have like the Muppet films and everything, but I would just love to see them broaden the horizon on the Muppets. Like, for instance, add the Muppet Show to it. I mean, I know it didn't start out as Disney, but I mean, like, I'm for sure Disney can finagle something to get
Yeah.
the original Muppet Show on there. And with the anniversary of Jim Henson's death, during the time right before he passed is when they were supposed to join forces. He was actually, I believe, selling the rights to the Muppets to Disney. I think it was a couple weeks or a week before his death. So during that time of the anniversary of his death, I was actually anticipating on having the special, The Muppets at Walt Disney World. I don't know if you ever seen that special.
No.
But it's where Kermit invites all his friends down to the swamp for like his annual frog family reunion and what have you. Well, here the Muppets stumble into Walt Disney World, and all mayhem and chaos happens. And I remember watching that special one time, but I thought it would have been a touching tribute to Jim Henson if they would have added that on there.
That would have been fantastic.
Because that was the very last time that Jim performed as Kermit.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I haven't. Unfortunately, I need to start getting into some of the Muppet stuff. I haven't watched any of the Muppets Now. None of that. I got to check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I got to check it out. Now, I wanted to close out with something that's actually not even necessarily Disney Plus related, just streaming platform related. And I wanted to ask you whether it's Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, whatever. Are you watching anything right now that you want to recommend, or anything that you're watching that's like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool? You know, it doesn't have to be Disney Plus. It could be anything. Netflix too, you know? Are you guys watching now, or anything you recommend that you've seen that was pretty cool?
I'm trying to think of anything that I'm at the top of. I mean, I do know like on Netflix and Hulu, I'm watching a lot of shows that are still on regular basic cable. Like, for instance, like we like to watch The Masked Singer. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I've heard of it. Never seen it.
Oh, they're on season 4 already. So,
wow.
I mean, if you go back and watch it, it's a very interesting show of how they get these famous people and celebrities to go in these costumes, go on stage and sing, and you basically have to guess who they are.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we've been watching that on Hulu, even though you can get that on Fox, but you know, that's something that we wait for to go on Hulu. And then as far as with Disney Plus goes, I've been watching along with the Imagineering story, but I've been watching Inside Pixar.
Oh, that's a new one, right?
Yeah, it's a new one. They're like 15-minute segments of some of the people of what they do and what their job is behind the scenes of like what it takes for certain intricate things to be put into a Pixar film. And that's very interesting.
Cool.
I do enjoy that.
Cool. Right now, we're watching, and I absolutely love it. It's on Netflix. It's an old show. Well, not really super old, but pretty old. It's already been canceled like a year ago. Gotham, the DC show Gotham, and you know, it's funny because I didn't when it was on TV, I had no interest in it. I didn't ever even give it a shot. We started watching on Netflix, and I absolutely fell in love with the show. And for those of you that don't know, it's basically like the prequel leading up to. It's basically like, you know, how Bruce Wayne as a young boy, you know, kind of grew up to be Batman. But the story is told through the eyes of a young Commissioner Bourdain. And it's absolutely great. It's kind of like, it's like a detective drama, and the cast is phenomenal. The guy who plays Penguin, his name is Robin Lord Miller. Completely different take on the character of the Penguin. Every time you see Penguin in any kind of content, he's this fat, you know, cartoony looking version of, you know what I'm saying? It's very like this guy is skinny. He's got like spiky hair. He's almost like this weird like hybrid of like Pee Wee Herman and like an Italian mobster.
Okay.
Sounds weird, but weirdly enough, it actually works. It actually works really good. He's actually one of my favorite on-screen comic book characters. I mean, this is his version of it, you know? Phenomenal. phenomenal. It's like kind of like, you know what? It kind of reminds me of like, you remember everything leading up to Heath Ledger's Joker?
Yes.
All the Jokers had like that same kind of clean. The makeup was perfect. The hair was perfectly slicked back.
Goofy and funny, slapstick type of, yeah.
Right. But then Heath Ledger came on and his makeup was messy. Like he was like, it was like almost like runny mascara all over the place, right?
He did a chilling performance of the Joker, and it was, he deserved that Oscar.
Yeah, and you see how it was the Joker, but it was a departure from the other Jokers. But his Joker worked even better, right?
Yes.
That's how this Penguin is. He's not the fat, cigar smoking bifocal Penguin you remember. He's skinny, spiky hair, weird, but it works so good. It works really, really well. Gotham is a great show. I got one more season left. I'm on the final season.
How many seasons are there?
There's 5.
Okay.
And I think we're like on episode 2 or 3 of the final season. There's only like 12 episodes in the season. It's a great show. It's a really, really great show. And if you love, it's more, in my opinion, it's more detective drama than it is superhero.
Okay.
So it's more like crime, like detective work more than anything. There's the superhero stuff is sprinkled in there, but it's more, like I said, it's seen through the eyes of Commissioner Gordon. So it's more of the police work,
Interesting.
It's pretty awesome. So we've been watching that now. I fell in love with it, and I don't know. DC, they do some pretty good stuff when it comes to the shows and stuff. I mean, I also like The Flash too,
Well, that's why Disney is holding back their Marvel. They're just going to throw everything at them, and it's like,
yeah,
they're going to do everything at once. And I think with this 1-year anniversary of Disney Plus, I will give Disney the fact that they're telling us what is on the horizon.
right.
All these things that are coming out about. I mean, they even said that Loki, that's not even out yet for season 1, that season 2 will be ready in 2022.
Oh my God. I didn't hear that. So they're already starting on season 2?
They're already starting on season 2 of Loki. So just like with The Mandalorian, Disney's already anticipating that this show is going to be, I guess, maybe a phenomenon in the Marvel franchise.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And because Disney had released just really quick that some of the Disney Plus originals that are coming soon are some we already know, and then others kind of interesting is WandaVision, The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. So for all of you Disney Channel stars of The Proud Family, they're getting a reboot. Turner and Hooch, Cassian and K2, what is it, 250? I think his name from Rogue One.
Oh, K2SO.
K2SO, that's who it was. Let's see. Flora and I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'll skip that one. Okay. She-Hulk, Chip and Dale, High School Musical, the series, season 2, World According to Jeff Goldblum, season 2, Star Wars: The Bad Batch, Diary of a Future President, season 2, Marvel's What If, Disney Safety, Marvel Studios Moon Knight, and that's spelled Knight. One that I'm actually looking forward to is Ink and Paint, which is the part of the Walt Disney Archives. Hawkeye, Monsters at Work, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, a Mickey Mouse documentary.
Wow.
Which actually is coming from legendary producer Don Hahn.
Oh, great.
So this is coming right after him just finishing off with Howard.
Yeah, and we did a video about Howard and how much we love that documentary.
Yeah, I still love that one. Willow, The Mighty Ducks. This one I'm very interested with because as we were talking about the Imagineering story is Disney's Behind the Attraction.
Okay.
So they're going to be, I guess, little shorts based off of each individual attraction and what goes into them.
That's pretty cool. Now, what's that? When you're reading it, what's the timeline for? Is this all 2021?
This is all, it just says 2021, but Disney is anticipating between 2021 and 2022.
Okay, so next couple of years.
Yes.
Wow.
Godmothered, Disney Just Beyond, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Miss Marvel, and People in Places.
Interesting. That's a lot. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's just some of the Disney Plus original content that they're coming out with.
Wow. Well, and you mentioned on there the World According to Jeff Goldblum. We didn't touch upon that one. Did you ever watch that series?
I watched, I think, the first 2 episodes. I did not continue because, again, with Disney Plus, I jump from one thing to the next, and I have to continue on. But it's a very interesting show. Yeah. I think it's very. I never would have thought him and Disney collaborating. I would have never guessed.
No, and he actually reminds me of another show that I absolutely love, which isn't on Disney Plus, but it's Anthony Bourdain.
Yes, that's when I saw it at Disney Plus at the Expo when they showed clips of it. That was the first thing that I thought in my mind.
Yeah,
was Anthony Bourdain. And I thought that's so interesting. And
rest in peace. I love Anthony Bourdain. I was a huge Anthony Bourdain fan. But yeah, this reminds me of that. Not food focused. It's everything. He does ice cream and tennis shoes and RVs and all kinds of stuff. But I fell in love with that show too. I thought that was pretty awesome. And
I do. Just the 2 episodes that I watched, it was very interesting. I got to finish those. Now. You asked, were there any dates on these? That they released the Marvel Studios 2021 slate. And this is just current right now. Things could change. That WandaVision is in post-production. They're looking at a January 15th, 2021 release. I think that one is going to come out for sure.
Yeah, that was just announced.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is in post-production. It's just saying 2021, not an actual date. Loki is actually filming right now as we speak. It'll come out in 2021. Black Widow post-production is May 7th, 2021, but we don't know really where that one's going to go. What If is in production. That's going to come out summer of 2021. Shang-Chi is in post-production. They're looking at a July 9th, 2021. Eternals is in post-production. They're looking at a November 5th, 2021. And Spider-Man 3 is filming right now, and that's going to be for December 17th, 2021.
Now, the interesting thing about the Marvel stuff is because it's a cinematic universe and everything is connected, I wonder how much impact Black Widow, because that's a big one, will have on some of these other shows and movies. They might have to release one before they can release the other. You know what I'm saying? Because they're all connected. Like, for example, Winter Soldier and what was it? Winter Soldier and
Falcon and Winter
Falcon and Winter Soldier. They might have to wait for Black Widow before they can do that one. Maybe they're connected. You know?
Yeah.
So
we really don't know. We really don't. And I wonder if that's even why a lot of the Marvel content got delayed to be released, because they may be waiting on Black Widow to be released. But I do think that if it doesn't release in theaters on May 7th, that they stretched it long because it was supposed to already be out, that I really don't think that they're going to wait any longer after May 7th. If it doesn't come out in theaters in May 7th, I think Disney will have to force to either try again with the premiere access or do something, but at least get it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine, man, if things aren't open by May, I don't know what we're going to do as a society. I mean, that we need to get things
definitely. Here, you know? And I think, honestly, a part of with the premiere access, I know we're kind of going back, but one thing that I think that if Disney would not have said, oh, in a couple months, it's going to be free. You know, don't give the date. So even if they were to do that to Black Widow with the premiere access, don't give a timeline of when it's going to be free. Or even if it's not free at all, maybe it'll be where it's no choice. If you want the movie, you buy it and unlock it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I don't know why they did that. That seemed like a real kind of a rookie move. Because it's like, I don't know if the demand is high enough. Like, I just don't know if the demand is high enough for people to want to rush out and see Mulan. They know the story. They've seen the cartoon, right?
Right.
Like that kind of tactic might work with like, say, like a Marvel or a Star Wars movie where it's like, if you want to see it early, you can pay $29.99. And then, I can see it working for that because like people are like spoiler phobic, and like, oh yeah, I want to watch it before everybody else. That way I won't get spoiled. Right. But Mulan, there's no threat in being spoiled. You know what the story is. So you can wait till December to see the remake. It's not a big deal. I just don't understand why they would do that, why they announced it in advance. I agree with you. I think that hurt their sales. I really do.
Yeah. Now, can I ask you this?
Yeah.
With Disney Plus now at its 1 year, now it's going into its second year, that the announcement several weeks ago that Bob Chapek mentioned that it was going to be heavily of the Walt Disney Company leaning on towards the streaming service, could that possibly be a game changer with all this content, that it's going to even be pushed even more, that regardless if it's going to be out in theaters or what have you, could that have been a little bit of a hint to say that, we're not even focused on the theaters anymore. We're just going to aim for the streaming service.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this in past videos. I think that is the case. Like, I don't think that like the theater going experience is 100% dead. I mean, we will have theaters again because they make a lot of money, for these studios and for the theater chains. But I do think that theater going experience is going to be a smaller piece of that overall pie. I think that the studios are going to want to kind of, be less reliant on that in case, you never know. There might be another pandemic in 2 or 3 years or 10 years from now that we have a similar problem. The studios kind of want to cushion themselves from that kind of loss again, So yeah, I think the theaters will return. There will be movies back in the theater, but they're going to be a much more smaller piece of the market. I think that these studios really want to do a more direct to consumer approach as much as they can. They get all the money from that. Like when Disney releases something on Disney Plus, it's 100% goes back to Disney. They release it in theaters, they got to split it with the theater chains. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a financial incentive there, So yeah, I think that it will alter. I think that we will see a broader focus on streaming even after COVID-19.
Yeah, I agree. I do.
I think that's inevitable. I think they were kind of moving in that direction already, even before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit and it just like light speed.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think eventually it was going to head that way anyway, but the pandemic pushed it much further. I would say we're like maybe like 3 or 4 years ahead of what was already being planned.
Yeah. It's crazy. Now, you're in Pennsylvania. Are theaters open in Pennsylvania right now?
As of right now, as far as I know, not yet. I do know that there were some theaters that were open to limited capacity, or if you could actually rent out a theater, whole entire theater room for you and your family or guests or what have you for $50.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you could actually have a whole entire, but I mean, that would be where it wouldn't be no movies released. It would probably be already a movie that was already released or what have you. But I mean, I guess if you still want that movie theater going experience for $50, you could rent out a whole entire theater.
That's pretty cool. Wow. $50 is nothing, dude. You can't even take a family of 5 to a movie for $50.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's how desperate these movie theaters are. So, I mean, I do feel for these companies that they have to do what they have to do for the streaming service. But at the same time, I feel bad for these theaters because, I mean, even just like with the AMC, I really don't know how they're going to be able to recover. And there is talks of rumors that Disney may, not right now, but may purchase AMC.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that rumor too. And I heard the rumor that Amazon is interested in some of these theater chains.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see that happening because Amazon wants to take over the world. But George, thank you so much, buddy, for coming on. I do appreciate it. Before we take off, if you can remind everyone at home where they can find you just one more time before we go.
Absolutely. I'm George. Also Disney Family Man 23. You can find me under the same name on YouTube. You can listen to my podcast with some of my other friends at the Grand Circle Tour podcast. You can also listen on YouTube, and you can find me on Twitter at Disney George. And also, before I go, on November 18th is Mickey and Minnie's birthday, and it's going to be the premiere on Disney Plus of The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse. If you're a fan of the Mickey Mouse shorts, that they're now turning it into a full, I'm assuming 30-minute show. So definitely check that out on November 18th on Disney Plus. And also on my channel, I will be releasing some new videos after I get back from my virtual panels of the D23 Fantastic Worlds. I am attending those panels, and I can't wait to release all that new content with you when I get done with those. So please look out for those. That would be on November 16th through November 20th.
Awesome. Yeah, give him a subscribe. He has great content. Like you heard the man, he said he's a lot more coming on the way. And thanks again, George. I really do appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much for having me.
Comment below, like, subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye now.